I always knew my mother had issues with boundaries, but I never thought she was capable of pure malice. I was wrong. My fiancée, Emily, 26F, is the love of my life. She is kind, patient, and unfortunately for her, beautiful. My mother, Karen, 58F, has always seen Emily as a threat. It started small, backhanded compliments about Emily's cooking. "Oh, you use Jared sauce? How convenient," comments about her weight, "You look healthy, dear," and constant attempts to undermine our wedding planning. Mom wanted a church wedding. We chose a vineyard. Mom wanted us to invite her 50 bridge club friends. We kept it intimate. Every decision was a battle, and every time I sided with Emily, my mother's resentment grew. The breaking point was the dress. Emily had dreamed of this dress since she was a little girl. It was a custom-made, lace and silk masterpiece that cost $5,000. She had worked overtime for 6 months to pay for it herself. It was perfect. 2 days before the wedding, the dress was hanging on the back of the door in our guest room, pressed and ready. My mother came over to help with last-minute details. I should have told her no. I should have locked the door. Emily was in the shower. I was in the kitchen, putting together some favor bags. Mom was wandering around the house with a large glass of red wine, Cabernet, dark and staining. "Where is the dress?" Mom asked, her voice too casual. "It's in the guest room, Mom. Please don't go in there with the wine," I called out. "Oh, relax," she laughed. "I just want to see it." Emily has been so secretive. I felt a pit in my stomach. I put down the favor bags and followed her. I reached the hallway just as she pushed the guest room door open. The dress was hanging there, glowing in the afternoon light. It was breathtaking. Mom stood in front of it. She didn't look happy. She looked angry. She took a sip of her wine, her eyes narrowing as she looked at the delicate lace bodice. "It's a bit flashy, isn't it?" she muttered. "It's beautiful, Mom," I said, stepping into the room. "Please, step back." Then it happened. It wasn't a stumble. It wasn't a trip. I was 5 feet away. I had a clear line of sight. My mother looked at me, made eye contact, and then deliberately flicked her wrist. It was a sharp, calculated motion. The contents of her glass, about 6 ounces of dark red wine, arced through the air and splashed directly onto the center of the white silk skirt. The red stain bloomed instantly, spreading like a gunshot wound across the fabric. I gasped. "Mom." My mother gasped too, but it was theatrical. She brought her hand to her mouth in a mime of shock. "Oh no!" she cried, her voice devoid of any real panic. "Oh my God! I tripped. The rug. I must have slipped. There was no rug. She was standing on hardwood." "You didn't trip," I whispered, staring at the ruined dress. "I saw you. You threw it." "How dare you!" she shrieked, turning the tables immediately. "I am your mother. It was an accident. Why would I ruin a dress? Oh, poor Emily. Maybe we can get some club soda." The bathroom door opened. Emily walked out, wrapped in a towel, her hair wet. "What happened?" she asked, smiling. I heard shouting. She walked to the guest room doorway. She looked at me. She looked at my mother. Then she looked at the dress. The scream she let out will haunt me for the rest of my life. It wasn't just a scream of sadness. It was the sound of a heart breaking. She fell to her knees, staring at the red stain that had destroyed her dream. My mother stepped over Emily to get to the hallway. "It was an accident," she announced loudly to the air. "I'll pay for the dry cleaning. It's not a big deal." I looked at my sobbing fiancée. I looked at my mother, who was already checking her phone, looking bored. And in that moment, the good son died, and a husband was born. The smell of the wine was overpowering. It smelled like acid. Emily was on the floor, her hands hovering over the stain but too afraid to touch it, as if the wine burned. She was hyperventilating. "It's ruined," she choked out, her voice barely audible. "It's gone. 2 days. We have 2 days." My mother sighed, a loud, impatient sound. She actually checked her watch. "Oh, Emily, stop the waterworks," Mom said, swirling the remaining drops of wine in her glass. "It's just a dress. Honestly, I did you a favor. It looked a bit cheap, didn't it? The lace was very polyester. You can go to the mall tomorrow and pick up something off the rack. Maybe something more modest. Something inside me snapped. It was like a physical cable in my chest finally frayed and broke. "Get out," I said. Mom looked at me, blinking. "Excuse me." I said, "Get out." I roared. My voice was so loud it echoed off the hardwood floors. I stepped between my mother and my crying fiancée. I loomed over my mother. I am 6'2", and for the first time in my life, I used my size to intimidate her. "You didn't trip," I spat, shaking with rage. "There is no rug. You were standing on a flat floor. I watched you, Mom. You looked me in the eye, and you threw the wine. You did it on purpose because you are a jealous, hateful woman." "How dare you?" Mom gasped, clutching her pearls, literally. "I am your mother. I gave you life. You are choosing this drama queen over your own blood." "Yes," I said instantly. "I am choosing her. I will always choose her. Look at what you did. You destroyed her property. You destroyed her happiness. And you're standing here insulting her." "I'm trying to help," Mom shrieked. "She doesn't belong in this family. She's turning you against me. You turned me against you." I yelled. "You did this, not her." I grabbed my mother's arm. I didn't hurt her, but I wasn't gentle. I steered her toward the front door. "Let go of me," she screamed. "I'm calling your father." "Call him," I said. "Tell him what you did. Tell him you just committed vandalism in your son's home." I dragged her to the porch. She stumbled slightly in her heels. "You are not welcome here," I said, pointing a finger in her face. "And you are not welcome at the wedding." Mom froze. Her face went pale. The wedding was her stage. She had bought a new gown. She had told all her friends. "You can't do that," she whispered. "I'm the mother of the groom." "Not anymore," I said cold-heartedly. "If you show up at the venue, I will have security remove you. If you call Emily, I will block you. If you come to this house again, I will call the police." "You'll regret this," she screamed, spit flying from her mouth. "You are making a huge mistake. She will leave you." "The only mistake I made was letting you in the door," I said. I slammed the heavy oak door in her face. I locked the deadbolt. I listened as she pounded on the wood for a minute, screaming profanities, before finally storming off to her car. I leaned against the door, breathing hard. My hands were trembling. Then I heard a soft sob from the guest room. I ran back. Emily was still on the floor. She had pulled the dress off the hanger and was cradling the ruined fabric, rocking back and forth. The red stain had soaked through to the back layers. It looked like a massacre. "I have nothing to wear," she whispered, looking up at me with red, swollen eyes. "I can't get married in jeans, OP. It's over." I knelt down and hugged her. I hugged her until she stopped shaking. "It's not over," I promised, though I had no idea how I was going to fix this. "We will figure this out, even if I have to so address myself." I looked at the ruined gown. $5,000. Gone. But as I held Emily, I knew one thing. My mother had tried to break us. Instead, she had just cemented my loyalty to my wife. Now, I just needed a miracle to save the wedding. That night, we didn't sleep. I called every dry cleaner in the city. Most laughed when I told them it was red wine on silk. "It's set," they said. "It's gone." But Emily's maid of honor, Sarah, is a theatrical costumer. She came over at 2 a.m. with a terrifying array of chemicals. "We can't get it white," Sarah said, examining the damage. "But we might be able to change the narrative." We didn't clean it. We dyed it. Since the stain was dark red and the wedding colors were burgundy and gold, Sarah suggested we lean into it. We spent the next 24 hours dip-dyeing the bottom of the dress in a gradient of deep wine red, blending it up into the white bodice. It was risky. It was terrifying. But when it dried, it was stunning. It looked intentional. It looked like an ombre masterpiece. It wasn't the traditional white dress Emily bought, but it was unique, fierce, and beautiful. Just like her. The wedding day. We hired security. 2 large men in black suits stood at the entrance of the vineyard with a photo of my mother. She tried. Oh, she tried. Right as the ceremony was starting, there was a commotion at the gate. My mother had shown up in a white dress, of course, screaming that she had a right to be there. The guards didn't blink. They escorted her back to her car and threatened to call the sheriff. I stood at the altar. When Emily walked down the aisle, the guests gasped. Not in horror, but in awe. The red ombre hem swirled around her like rose petals. She looked radiant. We got married. We danced. We drank champagne, white only. It was the best night of my life, made sweeter by the absence of the one person who tried to destroy it. The lawsuit. After the honeymoon, I had one loose end to tie up. I didn't want my mother to think she had gotten away with it just because we salvaged the day. The principle mattered. I filed a lawsuit in small claims court for $5,000, the cost of the dress she destroyed. When the process server handed her the papers, she called my father. My father, who had been suspiciously quiet during all of this, finally grew a spine. "She sued you?" Dad asked her. He later told me this. "He sued me," Mom wailed. "His own mother." "Well," Dad said, "you did pour wine on a $5,000 dress, Karen. I saw the stain on the floor. You're on your own with this one." Mom showed up to court alone. She looked small. She tried to tell the judge it was an accident. I brought photos. I brought the testimony of the dry cleaners who said the stain pattern indicated a high-velocity splash, not a spill. The judge looked at my mother. "Ma'am, you don't accidentally throw wine 5 feet across a room." Judgment for the plaintiff. The aftermath. She paid. She had to write a check to Emily. We haven't spoken since. She sends cards on birthdays, which we burn. My dad visits us secretly sometimes. He says the house is quiet now. I looked at the wedding photos yesterday. There is a picture of Emily laughing, her red-dipped dress fanned out around her. It reminds me that you can't control the mess people make of your life, but you can choose how you color it. And sometimes, the stain makes for a better story than the white silk ever could.